Thank you very much, Mr. Edwards. Definitely taking away the public-private sector collaboration, and even by greater extension, private sector, not just entities, but as well looking at persons who are consuming the product as well, so that we can receive their feedback and improve on product and processes. At this time, we invite our final panelist, Mr. Brenton Hiliare, to give insights from a private sector perspective. Thank you.
Good afternoon, right now. I listened to Tony speak a while ago, and I was quite delighted with his presentation. The reason being is that research has generally shown that the MSME sector in economies can contribute between 40 to 60% of the GDP. So therefore, it means that as much support as we can give to these individuals, it will benefit us in the long term. And from where we sit at the DAIC, we have seen the growth of the sort of entrepreneurial spirit. And it all really took a jump start, I would say, coming out of the whole COVID situation. Because during COVID, we were locked down and some of us, our incomes were reduced and we had to find a way to survive. And they say Dominicans are resilient people. And we did find ways to survive. And coming out of COVID, we saw the emergence of a lot of persons starting businesses. So much so that there are individuals who started their business post-COVID and left their full-time employment to pursue entrepreneurship. So there is a thriving entrepreneurial mindset that exists within our communities. But as Tony said, maybe as a nation, we have not been listening to them enough to find out what their true pain points are. And I'm happy to have heard it from, as they say, the horse's mouth, but direct from the source, to say it in a better way. So thank you, Tony, for that. And the government has been doing their part. But the whole point of forums like this is the feedback aspect. For those of us in any form of managerial position, you know that it's not just about doing, but after you take action, at some point you need to sit back and reflect to determine, is this accomplishing the goal and the objective that we set forth initially? So finding ways where we can incorporate all the players, the private sector, the public sector, the sole proprietor, the partnership, and having insight from them helps guide the conversations going forward. So there are policies in place that do provide support. But the question is it enough support, as we heard a while ago? And then in speaking with people generally, as was said a while ago, sometimes it's just a matter of improving the communication, because you would be surprised to find out that a lot of persons within the space of being a sole proprietor are not aware of all these great things that are available for the small business unit, for the DYBT, they have their own grants, for the various grants that are offered regionally. And it's not that we may be a small community, but within our small community, we have stalwarts who thrive when put up against others. We have had persons in Dominica through their businesses who have gotten grants despite competing with persons from bigger economies. That says a lot about the potential that exists within our space. And we have to find a way to come together and work together to really produce what is truly the best possibility for us in Dominica. Dominica is ripe, in my opinion. There are a lot of opportunities that are on the horizon. And a very important point was said by the minister. Are we prepared? With all these capital infrastructure projects, are we starting to think of what is going to be the outcome? Yes, we have to benefit now as much as possible, because when the money stays in the economy, everyone is in a better position. But thinking past that, after the airport is built, after the hotels are built, how many of us are preparing to capture revenue from the influx of people? Our staffs, or bartenders, or waitresses, or waiters ready to deal with the clientele that we are going to meet? Or as we as citizens preparing ourselves for maybe the high interest in potential persons wanting to come here and live. You know, I had a conversation with a friend of mine from St. Vincent's who has their international airport right now. And he heard about ours and he told me, Brenton, let me tell you something. Start buying land. I was like, really? He said, yes, let me tell you, in St. Vincent, shortly after our airport, people were just coming and they wanted to invest and build, buy land now. And it's real. This is expected to happen as a result of the airport. More people will hear about us, more people will come. But the question is, how ready are we from a personal perspective and from a business perspective? Because even our businesses stand to benefit from the influx of people that are going to be here. So as much as the projects are going on, we have to find out how to get the local populace involved, but at the same time to be prepared for what is to come. Digitization is a key aspect of what we do, and I'm happy to see the efforts that has been going to support it. The increased use of technology means the reduction in the cost of doing business. But we also have to consider whether or not the regulations and the laws support the full extent of it. And we have had some debates about that in a group of ours. Sometimes it's beyond the reach of Dominica because of international laws that we have to follow. But the question is, have we really taken a deep dive to see where we could make certain tweaks within our own capacity to improve processes? Now, speaking with Tony previously, he mentioned that when he was in the UK, he sat at his home and registered for his business online. But in Dominica, if you want to register a business, you have to walk to SIPO. You have to maybe go to a lawyer's office. Then you have to go to the Inland Revenue. Then you have to go to Social Security. These things make a big difference in terms of entrepreneurship, investment, time spent. Maybe we can look at a forum where all processes, all aspects of running a business or starting a business is in one location, a one-stop shop. And I have heard the vision of, the small business unit pursuing that aspect of being a one-stop shop for entrepreneurs. But what about in terms of licensing and registering businesses? Can we extend it to that to make it easier? Because going back to my initial point, the more easy it is for someone to go into business, the greater the potential to increase our GDP from their contribution to the economy. And all research has shown that the small persons are sometimes the persons who eventually grow and expand into the conglomerates of today. I mean, if you have to look at stories outside, Jeff Bezos started from his garage and see where the company has grown. Why not in Dominica? We have had stories like this. We've heard of Fast Cash, and I share that story all the time. Started in Dominica, and now you have Fast Cash in Jamaica, in St. Lucia, in Grenada. So we have the capacity within Dominica to have success stories and share success stories, but a lot of it is going to come from collaboration. How can we in the private sector work with the government to see where the pain points are, address the pain points, and make doing business as seamless as possible? Because there is opportunity here, there is potential here. In terms of now the MSME environment, I wanted to make a point about that. And in as much as we are speaking about having the structures put in place for them, I think that sometimes we may have to address it from the root of the situation, which is our curriculum. Dominica has evolving goals. Dominica is now positioning itself strategically, but the question is the current curriculum that our children go through supportive of the direction that we are aiming to go? And Ashma spoke about it, job readiness. And a lot of people in the private sector make the comments that based on the applications they get for employment, they can tell by just one glance, this person may not be ready for full-time employment. And you're talking about persons coming up from college. Now, you cannot blame them, and I just think it's a general weakness in education systems across the world. It's only now that in Florida, for example, financial literacy is a part of their curriculum. So you must pass that topic for you to graduate. I don't think we have to wait for the world, but seeing how vibrant we have been in terms of making amendments, I believe that that is something that we need to actively consider, because we need to make sure that our people are ready to support as much as possible, both from the private sector and the public sector, in the vision that we have for Dominica. We have to start teaching them about savings, about debt management, about investing, about having a business and the tools needed to support your business, having financial accounts. Simple things like that taught at an early age can make a very significant impact on where we are going in the future. Briefly to touch on agriculture, it's another fundamental aspect of the economy. And I recall being at well, y'all can hear me? I recall being at a symposium where a lady rightly said, the doctors, the lawyers, the accountants, the bankers of today, most of them were all paid from the proceeds of farm labor, hard back farm labor. But we seem to have transitioned into a society, not just Dominica, but globally, where we feel like farming is a hobby. And I feel like in order to really address or to hit the target that we have heard from the budget, we need to also go back to school and start changing the conversation about it, changing the profile about it. Right now, we have a lot of prominent business people who have farms, but how many of us are aware of that? And maybe we need to start promoting our local success stories some more. We have a lot of persons who have successful farms, who are making money from farms, but we don't hear the stories to encourage young people, to let them know that this is a viable option to consider in the future. Farming really and truly is a business. And for those who see it as a hobby, that's even better, because when you love what you do, it's not work. So it's a conversation that definitely warrants more investigation, change to the dynamics, and more encouragement. And with the way the world is going, I mean, going back to opportunities, I believe that at some point, food will be gold. Dominica has maybe one of the most fertile soils in the Caribbean, and we definitely need to take advantage of that. So to not be too long, there are opportunities in the market. Some are more obvious than others, but we won't really get the full benefit of what's possible unless we work closer together. And we have to be intentional about it. So this is one of the reasons why the public-private sector working committee was established. So from the Chamber's perspective, we made a recommendation to the government to form this committee so that we could work closer together. Rather than having to wait on an annual basis to come together, we want to meet regularly and talk about the policies that have been implemented, to review the policies that have been implemented, to see where the tweaks are possible. Because at the end of the day, when you have more inputs into ideas, you get a more refined outcome. And we are grateful that the government saw merit in this. But we have a responsibility, every one of us, to actually voice our ideas. So within the private sector, do not just sit on it, but share. Speak openly. Say what your pain points are. And you know, the old school saying is not what you say, is how you say it, but share what you're going through. And that feedback is what is going to help us to improve. And from the public sector perspective, we also want to hear what your challenges are so that we can come to a common ground. But I believe at the end of the day, if we continue on this, then definitely Dominica will be one of the islands to watch in the Caribbean. We are capable of greatness, and it's just about going after it. Thank you.